sure I'm what's that?
Pennsylvania.
Okay, we are on the air. Maya Govinen, and welcome to the Tolkien Society here on June 11th, 2016. And do you know if Chris is coming? Anybody else?
Haven't heard.
Another fellow had RSVP'd on Meetup, so probably might be a few months late.
Melody Kind might come.
Okay, so we got maybe some latecomers. Corey, yeah, he RSVP'd on Meetup,
good.
so hopefully he's still on his way.
Good.
So this is our monthly meeting, and it is 1 month before, well, 5 weeks before Tolkien Moot 12 is coming up.
Oh yes.
That'll be July 16th. And so we usually do the Tolkien Society on the second Saturday of each month from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. However, whenever it's a Tolkien Moot month, which is the third weekend of July each year now, we hold the Tolkien Society meeting at the Moot. And so that will be July 16th, 2016, from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. is Tolkien Moot. We're only doing 1 day instead of 3 days this year, save on finances and such, in the hopes of one day saving up for the Bozarth Mansion. A number of years ago, I started to save up for that. It's about $4 or $5 grand to book it for the weekend, and it's a gorgeous place. About a 1912 Tudor style construction, and just beautiful. And just right up the street from here. But someday I hope to do a Tolkien Moot there and save up for that.
Well, and hopefully too, maybe between now and then, to build a real positive momentum.
Right. Yeah.
With Tolkien Moot.
Right.
Reconstruction period.
We would want at least 50 people showing up for that to warrant the costs. So.
Yeah.
And then we've still talked about going out to the little Shire place out in Montana for just a Tolkien Society broadcast.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, a wonderful weekend. They only book it for the weekend, as I understand. So we get a few of us, but it's $400 or $500 per house, and there's only 5 or 6 of them. So. I wouldn't. I'd feel uncomfortable asking for money for that, for just us. For a moot, that's one thing.
It's Saruman's mission.
Anyhow, so let's go ahead and go through the notes while we're waiting for folks to show up. If they do, either I sent an invitation to Jeremiah. I'm checking to see if anybody's saying anything. Summertime attendance, except for the Moot, tends to kind of drop off a bit. People get busy with going outdoors and doing other things, and they're not particularly interested in hanging out online or
escaping from school.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we're a little light over the summer, except for the Moot. Brian, and Brian just had a birthday. So
I did.
Happy birthday!
Thank you very much.
And it was
there was much rejoicing.
Yes.
Another year older.
Yes, indeed. And so I'm really.
You're also going to start on your master's program, right?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer. So I spend about a week in Iowa starting my master's degree. The rest of it will be online, but I have one class on site. And then I fly down to Arizona for 3 days in August. And then my eldest goes off to college in August as well. So maybe someday she'll be a pilot and I'll just be able to get free tickets, which would be nice.
Excellent. And after you finish the notes, remind me that somebody has sent us a special request.
Okay. All right.
Explain that after.
Very good.
So go ahead.
All right. So without further ado, the monthly meeting notes for the Tolkien Society's meal are as follows. Hawk, Richard, Brian, Chris, and Corey attended in person. Deborah and Jeremiah attended online. And I read notes from April. Deborah shared her maps that Hawk has been in contact with this person who's made quite extensive. They were hex maps, weren't they, Hawk?
No, they were all kinds. They were made of stuff, but they were very, very colorful and rich.
Very colorful,
Entire
detailed maps, and even had, it seemed that they were easily used for kind of almost a tabletop kind of, like almost her own board game where you could move these little characters. I think she had some tokens of the
Yeah,
Hobbits.
they were in the hexagon shape.
Well, they vary.
She had
She had
seven
different
different
styles.
Yep. So really
They were quite lovely.
interesting collection that she'd worked on, and so unfortunately, she was not able to keep her internet connection.
Yeah,
Hawk, did you want to make any
cell
comments
phone
on that?
or-
Any follow-up?
And yes, she has decided she's not going to make them publicly accessible because she's worried about copyright type issues, even though it's all her original artwork. She's nervous about Tolkien Society and Tolkien Estate giving her grief, and she doesn't feel quite up to that. Though, you know, there's Rolio Tolkien, all these others. I don't know that they ever go after anybody who makes original artwork.
Mhm.
So if she just posted them as original artwork and maps, original,
Yes.
I don't know that they go after anybody for that.
Yeah, I doubt
Even though
that.
they technically could, as
Well,
derivative works.
Well, that's the question. Does Ted Nasmith or any of these guys do they?
Yeah, I don't.
And when you think about the Tolkien Society itself, they have quite a few pieces of artwork within,
Right.
although it's within the magazine, and maybe they have the umbrella kind of permission.
Well, yeah. So Other Minds magazine is, you know, Other Minds magazine.
No, I was referring
No.
to Malorn and
Oh, Valor. Okay. Well, they're also in Other Minds magazine.
so yeah,
And
they-
Other Minds magazine is completely free publication. We had our 15th episode, and anyway, we're going astray from the notes here. We can come back to that if you like.
so Deborah,
But she's decided she's not going to make those publicly available because she's nervous about copyright issues. Understandably, I would love for her to see her.
you know,
Put that up there.
fascinating,
but
Hawk.
Understandably, okay, I can't.
Well, I can.
Somebody's trying to invite me to another video broadcast.
Oh, they probably what they did is they misunderstood. They started
No,
their
it's a
own.
whole group.
So meanwhile, Richard, the one thing that'd be interesting is if maybe she's not willing to share it, you know, like that with copies of it, but maybe you need to kind of maybe have one meeting where we talk about mapping it, like how do you, and different kinds of maps. We could look maybe like what did Tolkien himself draw, and then Christopher did most of the maps that you'll see in the back of books.
I did find this one map that took Middle Earth and overlaid it on Europe. It basically dropped the seas down to the continental shelf, and it was a pretty good match.
Yeah. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to kind of have that as a focus for me. So maybe you should be willing to, you know, kind of join us for that. So okay, well, we hope that Deborah gets a chance to connect with us again, and
Yeah.
appreciate all of you out there who, in your own way, are able to see your own connection to Middle Earth, and whether that be through artwork or through your just being maybe a Tolkien fan. We can certainly feature those things here. So we had various comments afterwards. Hawk read an excerpt from the Fellowship Inklings book, which you, I think, just got, and the prologue. So a little bit about that, that new book about the Inklings. And then Chris Cooperstein also gave his review of the first two chapters, which he had read, and kind of looking at snapshots of the Inklings in context of community. So not just each Inkling by themselves, but looking at really who they were in community. And then what about now? We talked about, isn't there a great need for a kind of civil collaboration between those of differing opinions? So we had a general discussion about this, and how myth is not an easy medium to work with. Cooperstein referred to an Asimov story. I can't remember which one of that was. And then Jeremiah from Britain, he was commenting about RPG and role-playing games and Tolkien's Legendarium. We were talking about Carpenter's book, The Inklings, versus this new Inklings book, and about how civil discourse is still alive, but it's suffering. And so it's great to see examples in the Inklings where you know, these professors, actually, well, not professors, they were from various backgrounds in Oxford, but they came together over a love for literature,
Right.
and they weren't just coming saying, I have it all figured out and I'm going to share my ideas, but they had strong opinions, but they also had strong respect for others.
Right.
And so nowadays, the substitute that's more like a NutraSweet or saccharin kind of thing is that I have ideas, but I feel threatened, you know, and so really it's about tolerance, which means that we all agree to agree with each other instead of being able to have some means to
respectful discourse and respectfully disagree.
And to respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
So, and disagreement is often seen as itself a disrespectful thing. And so,
yeah,
how could we get back to that? It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Authorship is influenced by one's peers to the extent we are sharing and listening. So again, fascinating to consider how authors over time are influenced by their community. If you're by yourself as an author, how does that affect you? Who do you rely on, or how do they influence you? When do you need to be kind of alone? Because obviously it's your work, your authorship, but you are influenced by your peers, and certainly Tolkien was as well. And that perhaps is part of what made him great. Then we moved on to Vineyard Tengwar. Say that 5 times fast.
Vineyard Tengwar.
We need to make up some Elvish.
Merds all mixed up walking backwards.
Brian, is Tengwar the gilded version?
Yeah. So Vineyard Tengwar, the magazine, November 1988, Table A verbs. Talk about geekness. We were looking at Elvish verb tenses, and in the March 1989 issue, Hawk read from, it referred to only 5 Entish poems that we know of. A Song of Living Creatures, the Song of the Seasons, the song which is an alternation of Ents and Entwives that the elves kind of wrote, the Song of the Slain Rowan Trees, which is sung by I think Quick Being in the Two Towers, and then the battle song against Isengard, to Isengard, to Isengard. So these are the 5 known poems that Tolkien wrote. It's coming from the Entish.
What about Legolas's rack when they're taking the hobbits to Isengard?
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's found poetry there. And then we talked about RPG Net. I have no idea what that was about. Oh yes, comments regarding origin of hobbits.
Oh, right.
Did you? Oh, I know, because you were on RPG Net at the same time, weren't you, Hawk? And so I think somebody was making comments about the origin of hobbits, or asking.
Yeah.
And so you were referring to that.
Right. I updated on our website at TolkienScholars.org. In your notes, so there's the meeting notes section.
Yep.
I made it so that on the website it links to that module, that Tolkien Mood. I think it's Tolkien Mood 8.
8. So
it goes to that folder where the module was that was the Hobbits of the early days, which was that whole campaign where it was Third Age 1500, I think, or 1000, Third Age 1000.
Yes, where the hobbits were
Before
starting to
the Shire,
west over
exactly.
the mountains.
So all that research that I did on the origins of the proto-hobbits that Gollum may have been, all of that is included in those modules in rough form, but it's there.
I was a fellow hide. I remember it.
Yes.
Like it was only an age ago.
And interestingly, it probably has stuck a lot better because you went through that adventure.
Absolutely.
Than if we just talked about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was really.
Which of course is my research.
Yeah, simulated
learning.
empathy is very similar to real empathy.
Yeah, and immersive learning.
Immersive learning. So, so there's links on our notes on TolkienScholars.org to the what Hawk is just referring to, and so it's at the end of the module where you find the references. And then we read several letters of Tolkien's. So Richard read letter 118, which was a Christmas note to a teen fan, Hugh Brogan, and Tolkien was writing to him. Was that the room? It was in runes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was the second one that he made me read in runes.
Yeah. That kind of ruined it, didn't it?
So, You tried to slip that in there, didn't you?
So Chris read letter 119, and this is where Tolkien was referring to taking his first sabbatical in 25 years. And then Corey read letter 120, which was from 1949, and Pauline Bain's very happy with it. I'm assuming boy, I wish I understood my notes.
They were a little more cryptic this time around
Sorry.
than usual.
Probably because
you're being
he,
more shorthand.
Probably because he didn't go through the archive and watch it again and write the notes.
No, I didn't. I actually wrote it while we were meeting.
Yeah,
I knew that
right.
next month I would be finishing.
Busy. No,
This will be
okay.
much more elaborate. And
That's okay. I appreciate what you do.
So I think letter 120 really had to do with how Pauline Bain's, Tolkien was very happy with Pauline Bain's illustrations. That's what it was.
Oh.
He was saying he really liked her illustrations for Farmer Giles of Ham. They were fantastic.
As opposed to the other person.
Well, right, because the other guy had Alan Unwin had engaged somebody else to do the job, and Tolkien did not approve. Let them know. Chapter 2 of Michael Martinez's Understanding Middle-earth. Hawk read about this, and it referred to how elves change, kind of conservatism, can't say that, conservatism, excuse me, versus change. So the elves, what were they able to adapt to? And Martinez really exploring how elves went through changes in location, culture, and language. So actually they were a lot more dynamic than at first blush. Their choices forced them to change is what he was referring to. And so, for example, he was contrasting like the woodland realm versus Lothlorien, and how the woodland realm of King Thranduil was a kingdom, an elvish kingdom in flux, because you really had this response to the necromancer, and you had essentially the elves moving further and further north in Mirkwood, and so their choices forced them to change. Lothlorien kind of, we're not going to change, we're going to have a piece of the Elder Days. It's an island in time.
Yeah, they recreated a simulation of the time before the trees.
Oh, Chris is trying to join us remotely.
Okay.
That's what's going on. He was trying to create the session. All right, let me invite him.
Because the instructions on how to join is so clear.
Well, it's clear to those who understand it. I frankly find it difficult as well. I can join in and listen. I just can't.
Well, the last when I stayed away because I was sick, I couldn't figure it out.
No, we were just banning you.
Oh.
I'm just
Gee.
I'm just
I wish
joking.
I'd known that.
A little
before.
joshing there. Sorry, Richard.
See how you are.
Michael Martinez's other related Tolkien books, which we heartily recommend, right, Hawk? Visualizing Middle-earth, Parma and Dorian, Mindfaring.
Heartily. It sounded like you said hardly.
Yeah, that.
Oh, like what? No, we heartily recommend.
Okay, in American
Welcome,
English,
Chris.
the T is often
Welcome.
T.
I was.
We heartily recommend the works by our dear friend Michael Martinez.
Chris Cooperstein has just joined us remotely.
He is virtually in the
Isn't that
house.
difficult? Let's get the invite. Let's see if we can hear him now. I've hooked you up to the speaker. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
I knew you would say that.
Thank you, George Burns.
Okay, sorry. We heartily
Michael Martinez does the
recommend
same thing.
Michael Martinez's many different books, which you can find at www.michael-martinez.com/books.
And I also, yes, I linked as well to those on the website as well in the
Yes.
notes.
Exactly. So please have a look and see what he has out there.
He also
His
has
blog is on
some,
Tolkien Society.
Yeah,
And
he
there's
also
an
has
ebook.
Short essays.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, that's what most of these books are.
It's about smog.
Oh,
That's what most of these books are, is an amalgamation of all his essays, hundreds and hundreds of essays he's written.
Well, the essay that I remember is where he's talking about smog as a device instead of a creature.
Right. And then this one is also an ebook. There's only 10 hard copies made. This was for Merpcon 2.
is that permanent?
Parma and Dorian, More Essays on Middle-earth, by Michael Martinez and edited by Matt Tenaglia. think Matt was part of the Ironcrown Enterprises
Right.
Middle Earth role-playing group.
Which was the second.
And so there's 10 of these, and autographed by Michael. And there's only 10 in the world that were printed, but the PDF is free. That was a little special treat from Rickon.
Right. Jeremiah commented on the Notion Club papers and Dunn's theory of time, talking about how things change over time and how do the elves relate to time. And so I looked that up, just a brief reference to that.
Okay.
Basically there's a really informative Wikipedia post on this called "An Experiment with Time," and this is a book by the British aeronautical engineer J.W. Dunn on the subjects of precognitive dreams and a theory of time, which Tolkien references in the unpublished novel The Notion Club Papers. So again, the idea is that your dreams could be a mix of both past memories as well as future events, or your thoughts of those, which are, of course, are mixed up and may not be decipherable. So that was referred to in Tolkien's Notion Club Papers, which was one of his novels that was not published. And so I think the link there was that Jeremiah was referring to how the elves and their dreams were not just mere dreams, but, you know.
Oh, you mean the Maya? Well, no, that wasn't a dream. I was thinking of the...
Welcome,
the
Seattle fan.
concept of
I think that's Deborah.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hi.
hello, Deborah. Good to have you back. Hello.
Hope to do a better show this time.
We can see the outside in your video there. So we're going.
Yeah, that's Puget Sound.
What's
Prettier
that?
than me. That Puget Sound is prettier than me.
So we're going through the notes from
I'm
last
at
week's
home
meeting right now.
using a hotspot.
Your internet's still a bit in and out.
Can she hear us well?
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
It's a little sputtery,
Yeah, that would
a
be.
little in and out. Sometimes you're clear and sometimes you stutter.
Yeah, that's what we're experiencing with you because it's your internet connection. So, but yeah, we'll do our best to keep it slow and clear. Continue on, Brian.
So that is the end of the notes for the month of May, and there's no follow-up really for this month, apart from the fact that we're continuing on with reading from Michael Martinez and the letters. And so the next letter to read will be letter 121.
Okay.
And we had a special request.
Yes. So as you know, we're all but not using Facebook. But if somebody specifically sends us a message to our Tolkien Society, Tolkien Scholars pages, or my alias there, Fionn Alcarian, which was my main Tolkien page, but Facebook shenanigans and all of that, I've already ranted enough about that. I get an email that says, hey, somebody sent something on Facebook. Otherwise, I'm really, really trying to, I'm sick and tired of Facebook. So, and so I just direct everybody to our website and things like that instead of an email. So somebody did send a direct message, which led to a direct email. And the person asked the following, or stated the following. Hi there, I'm looking for a translation. Would you please help me? My uncle recently passed away, and I want to put a plaque in Quenya/Tengwar, not a letter-for-letter translation, but the actual language as a sentence. He read all the books to me as a child and took me to all the movies. Are you able to help? Regards, Monique Fahuri. Apologize for the pronunciation. So,
how long is a translation is she requiring?
I don't have details, so the first thing is finding somebody that would be, appropriate to refer them to, or to get in contact with them about doing such a translation accurately. So for example, Mike Martinez would not be the right person because though he will break down words and such, he's never professed, or at least he hasn't in a long time, focused on the linguistic aspects other than in the context of the story. And that was part of why Peter Jackson went with David Salo instead of Michael Martinez doing the early consulting of the movies. And so going to Michael wouldn't be the right resource for the translation. I did tell them that we would put the word out here, so anybody out there who would like to help with this, let me know. It's tolkienscholars@gmail.com, tolkienscholars@gmail.com, and I can forward your information to help them. I'll also give them the info for the Artist Society and the Vineyard Tengwar folks who are linguists. They really do delve into the language. I don't have any relationship with David Salo, and I imagine after the Peter Jackson movies, he's got plenty of such work on the table that pays.
Well, and I was going to say, and if he is free to take on more work, it's going to be very expensive.
If he's free, he's not free.
Right.
So this would just be a nice little labor of love for somebody. It would be greatly appreciated. And so if you know a good person for this,
Hawk,
yes,
that might be also worthwhile passing that on to our Tolkien Society,
the main
yes organization, because they have an even wider subscribership.
That was going to be part of the effort here to get the word out.
Okay.
But I figured, I just got this message yesterday.
Oh, okay.
For Dave Frisch Day, so I said, Dave Frisch Day, so I said, hey, our meeting's coming up, I'll spread the word, and then, we'll go from there.
I mean, if it's one sentence, I think that's much more doable for some.
Yeah, if it was a long
we could do that,
thing,
but yeah, the grammar, it gets complicated.
Right, it's one thing to just do the words, it's another thing to make it actually be proper grammar. As we have seen as we
Well, I find that as well with, like, for example, I was working on preparing for a One Ring adventure, and as the lore master, I needed, so Radagast had written a letter to King Thranduil. So then I looked up the Sindarin to put together a believable short note that Radagast would write. I knew the content and everything, but it's you look online or whatever, and it's very easy for people not to realize that you can transliterate English words into Elvish, but that's not the same thing, because it's like a code. You're just putting the letters, but they're English words, and so you have to look up the vocabulary and try to figure out how the words relate. And then there's Elvish script, because Elvish script doesn't use vowels.
Translating in English. It sounds weird because their grammar is backwards from ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank
More
you.
regular than even Spanish.
What's that, Chris?
It's more regular than even Spanish Japanese is.
Yeah.
It has nice, highly structured rules. My middle son's in Japan right now for a couple months teaching English there. And he's considering maybe going to college there instead. But he'll have to do like 2 years of school in Japan to be allowed to do so. But he's considering it, and the work that he's doing, they might help him make that happen. So that's pretty neat. Let's see. Another thing that we want to talk about is the upcoming Tolkien Moot, as I mentioned at the beginning. Tolkien Moot 12 will be July 16th from 8 a.m. The doors open at 7 a.m., but we start at 8 a.m. and go till at least 10 p.m. 10:15 is closing ceremonies, and then for the hardcore gamers that want to play past midnight, there might be a table running for those who want to, but basically 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And in between, we will have our Tolkien Society meeting, instead of being on the second Saturday, will be on the third Saturday to coincide with Tolkien Moot, as we now do each year that there's a Tolkien Moot. And Michael Martinez has confirmed he will be joining us, so we'll do a combo 2 hours of Tolkien Society and Middle-earth Talk Show with Michael Martinez. The theme for this year's Tolkien Moot is Tolkien's Undead, which also, of course, brings in the complex subjects of life, afterlife, all of that in Tolkien's interpretations in Middle-earth, because of the Halls of Mandos and reincarnation of the elves. And William, can you close that door if you're going to do that, please?
No, I didn't know this was on the microwave.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'll close it.
It's a complex research topic. So Drake and I, as we've done the last few years, will be co-writing the campaign. And we haven't, like, he's still finishing up school, and I just finished school this week, so we haven't had a chance to do the research yet. But Michael, what's that?
I'm leaning back into the couch and getting pulled under and thinking, I'll just go to sleep.
Sorry, it's so boring.
What time is that meeting?
No.
Is that 1
The
p.m.?
it'll be our normal 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. so that our European viewers can still join us.
So that's next month?
That's next month. It's 5 weeks from now.
Yep.
So I considered breaking up into, as we normally do, 2 separate broadcasts, Tolkien Society and then the World Talk Show. But since we're only doing 1 day instead of 3 days this year, I figured we'd consolidate that as well and do the earlier time slot for our European friends. The later one at 6 p.m. where we usually do that is just too late for them. 1 to 3 is pushing it. It's pretty late for them as it is. That's why they don't always join us. So that'll be when we'll do our Tolkien Society broadcast with Middle-earth Talk Show with Michael Martinez that we were just showing some of his books. And he has a lot of material on this subject already written in his essays. But he's also said he will do some updated research specifically for the con so we can discuss the topic in depth. So that'll be next month's discussion is Tolkien's Undead. By then I will have found every single reference I can find in all his books to undead, whether it's zombies, wraiths, spirits, wights, vampires, whatever.
Well, he did kind of set the tone for a fantasy background, having undead as the primary adversary. I mean,
Yeah.
Skyrim, you're mostly killing people who have already died.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely, unlike the Tolkien, the giant theme, that there was a dearth of info. This one, there's a lot of information to draw upon. I haven't done it yet, but I have a pretty good feel that there's a lot of information to draw upon. How cohesive it is, I don't know, until I do the research. So looking forward to that. Chris, I still haven't figured out, are you going to be able to join us for Tolkien Week next month?
At least for the afternoon, but I'm not sure about the entire day. We're trying to get a lot of summer schedule stuff together, and not exactly sure.
Okay. Well, we'd love to have you for the day if possible, but we'll take what we can get.
Okay.
Brian will be joining us. He'll be at the tour table, the One Ring role playing game table.
Theoretically.
I
still haven't filled out the paperwork.
Well, I haven't sent them yet. This year is also different in that. So everybody is welcome to attend the broadcast and to hang out. But the tables are going to be invitation only this year so that they're limited.
I know. He told me I had to sign up online.
You need to create an account on the website is all.
Right. I've been preoccupied.
Okay, well,
Are you available for that?
Probably.
Probably. What else do you have going on, man?
It's classified.
That's fine. Yeah, I am trying to get everybody nailed down so we know what our seating is. So, Chris, as soon as you get your schedule nailed down, please let us know which sessions you might be able to attend.
Okay.
So for gaming sessions, we have in the morning 8:30 to noon from.
Well, we can go over that later too if you want. I just want to.
Okay, yeah, it's all on the website. If you go to tolkienmoot.org, there's a news update which has the proposed tentative schedule.
I searched for Tolkien Moot and it directed me to one of the earlier ones, and then there was an active link to Tolkien Moot 12.
Okay.
And that's how I found it.
Yeah, I mean, tolkienmoot.org or .com or .whatever, but I have all those variants. So So that's July 16th. That's coming up just around the corner, and that's the theme. Any questions on that? Yes, Brian.
Well, actually, there's a suggestion for our August
Please.
meeting. So the next meeting, as you say, will be for Tolkien Society will be July 16, embedded into Tolkien Moot. But in August, I was wondering, with Deborah and her interest in maps, and with the One Ring putting out the role-playing journeys and maps, I was just thinking that might be kind of fun to spend a little time in August looking at how do people make maps of Middle Earth, kind of a little bit of a background on, from the very beginning with J.R.R. Tolkien, and then of course Christopher Tolkien making maps for the books.
Right.
And then what were some of the earlier people putting that out there, both for RPG but also separately. So it's kind of interesting. You got Karen. I remember as a kid, Karen Wynne Fonstad's Atlas of Middle Earth I pored over that book. It was so fascinating. And if Deborah, if you're not comfortable with making public your artwork, which we understand, maybe you could share kind of your experiences and how you have gone through that experience of making those maps and what that was like for you and what was difficult about it and what was easy and that kind of thing. So I just want to put that out there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. I'm thinking all sorts of things. I got a book on how to make YouTube broadcasts and doing something with YouTube as far as making fantasy maps. I've thought about now that I have this huge token map and it's not really proper to publish it or use it publicly, I thought how to morph it into something that's different. For example, taking Minerath and turning that into a sea so we could open the rivers, change the names, how to make the token map a more public, usable map. There's some wonderful online sites. One of them is called fantasymaps.com, and it shows you a lot of techniques on how to make maps and draw maps. Yeah, I'm really thinking a lot about what to do, especially helping other people draw maps. And I'm studying YouTube now, how to handle YouTube broadcasts.
There's a piece of freeware software that's oriented towards broadcasters who are trying to do Twitch TV like style things. It's called OBS and it's freeware.
I don't have a computer now. All I have is my phone. And
well,
It depends on her computer background too.
Right.
I got to have my computer repaired.
What I was trying to say was a lot of you've heard of Twitch TV, right?
Which TV?
I had
Twitch.
Twitch. No, I don't know that one.
It's video games as a sports broadcast, I guess you could call it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them use open broadcasting software, which lets you capture things off your computer and either record it or do a live broadcast over the internet with it.
I recorded, honestly, mapping and using computer graphics. And I had a lot of it done when my computer kind of melted down off of my laptop, which forced me to use hand drawing, go back to hand drawing. By the way, I was a professional cartographer for about 20 years and studied a lot of graphic arts in college prior to the coming of computers. And in the long run, I found in the early stages, drawing by hand is faster. You can change it faster. It's just a rough sketch. You put some ideas, pick, and keep going. And then the final stages, you might want to use computer graphics to make it look pretty, to do the typesetting and all that stuff. But in the early stages, I suggest just going with pen, pencil, and paper. And I also liked, when I got away from the computer, I started working on the wall. And I love being able to see all of Rohan, a wall. The size of it, rather than looking through a little window of a computer screen. That was also. So I see the computer as not the only art tool, but as an accessory art tool. It's another tool in my drawing box to use with all the traditional art tools. And rather than being kind of dependent on only computer art, because it can limit you and it can be more time consuming. Whereas working with pencil and paper, you can go faster and it will streamline, it will force you to simplify things, whereas a computer, you get kind of tangled. Anyway, I'm going on.
Well, what I was trying to talk about was you were saying that you were thinking about doing YouTube videos, and OBS is designed to generate the raw footage.
Oh, I see.
Well, I think these are really great things to discuss and further, and I would really like to see if we could maybe consider August or September, if we could, have a meeting that would be maybe our focus could be on fantasy cartography, or just narrowly on Middle Earth itself.
Right. Well, and so for example, there are tools like Campaign Cartographer and other and
Well, there's cartographer.com.
Well,
yeah,
instead of
there's a lot of tools. Yeah.
Maybe that could
That's like fun. Thank you.
be.
That would be fun.
At that meeting, then that'd be very helpful.
Yeah. So we could do that you want to do it for August or September?
August is fine, and
Okay.
I'd love each person to bring
Actually,
their background knowledge.
it would be easier for me for September, so I'll have more research time to look into things and know what I'm doing when I get there.
You bet. We'll plan on September. So we'll make September for the Tolkien Society meeting. We'll specifically discuss mapping in Middle Earth and beyond, and
Yeah.
the various tools and resources, and copyright and everything else. See what we can find out on that. I'll see if I can get any official word back from Society or Estate about things like that.
And Deborah, feel free to just email Hawk with if you have a couple suggestions of what we can cover as we kind of discuss all the different issues related to mapping.
And that's TolkienScholars@gmail.com.
Deborah,
Yes.
the website cartographer.com you might find interesting. A lot of people submit maps to that, and they also have some tutorials.
Good. Email me that if you can. I'm at Deborah30@gmail.
Okay, I'll try. I'm horrible at email.
Email it to Hawk, and Hawk can email it to me.
That's a good idea.
That works too.
Okay.
Okay, so just for everybody involved, so that September meeting, the second Saturday of September will be September 10.
Really?
That's
The day before my birthday. Which is fine. That's
we'll
fine.
store.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we will tentatively go ahead and designate that as kind of our talking about
Map month.
Yeah, and maybe Michael would like to join. I don't know.
That'd be great. Yeah, no, I'm hopefully we can get Michael. I'm always happy to have Michael join us. He always adds some great insights and stuff.
He might be interested.
Actually, maps were my focus / starting point for the novel I'm writing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
All
So
right.
what's next on the docket?
I guess next would be to dig up some words of the day from Vineyard Tengwar. Let's see. So. I gotta share this though, if I didn't last time. So this is a Collected Works, Volume 1, Issues 1 through 10 of the Vineyard Tengwar. We've been reading different volumes, but there's a funny thing in here with shows an orc reading the book The Joy of Spawning instead of The Joy of Cooking. So, Okay, we did that. We did the conversation. It was a conversation in dialogue out in Tangor. It was a student in a conversational Quenya by Margaret Dean. We did that the other time. Then we did some Orcish, black speech mix.
Orc talk.
Yeah, Orc talk.
Political
we've done raw
commentary
hobbit and then Orc talk. Now we do Orc talk.
The last thing you read from had to do with the 5 pieces of Entish poetry.
Okay. Thank you.
From March 1989.
Okay, good.
Political commentary and current events. Orc talk.
There it is. Entish verses, the Song of Living Creatures, Song of the Seasons, alternate singing, Song of the Slain Rowans, and the Battle Song against Isengard. Yes, okay. List of publications which discuss Elvish.
Please.
Yeah, so this might be useful for the person who can request Monique or Monica. I don't know if it's Monica or Monique. It depends on references. List of publications which discuss Elvish, myth lore. So these are 3 that they recommend. Myth Lore is a journal of J.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Charles Williams, and the genres of myth and fantasy studies, and specifically number 56, Winter 88. Article by Paul Nolan Hyde, going into depth on Quenya.
Puck?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but just for my notes, it's easier if you tell me what the date is you're reading from. Is this still from March of '89?
Yes, we're still reading from March of '89,
Okay.
the Near Tangwar 4, page 9
Thank you.
of this. Resource number 2 is recommended is Beyond Bree, newsletter of the Mensa Tolkien SIG, January '89.
Oh my goodness, Mensa Tolkien. Woohoo!
Has excellent series on Quenya. Lesson 7 covers the noun plural. 140 or higher.
140 or higher.
Oh,
Registered.
right.
They're
The smart
But
people.
you actually register and apply and stuff. It's not. It doesn't automatically. So number 3 is Qatar, Bulletin of the Linguistic Fellowship of the Tolkien Society.
Qatar, as in the country?
Well, Quettar.
Oh, that. Which is, that's
And it's an issue devoted entirely to readers' comments on Quenya, back in '89. So those are from the 1989 issue of Tangwar of recommended sources that they draw upon for helping with the Elvish. Now, to get the actual word of the day, we've got some interesting runes here. So going to May '89, issue 5. Some nice runes on there.
Yep. Looks like runes.
Yep.
It doesn't leave room for much else.
Oh.
Are you saying there's no rune for?
Oh, it looks like a room with a view.
Oh.
Oh, gee, I didn't get one for my joke.
Wow.
Okay, so it goes over their meeting notes.
You're so mean. You're walking home.
They do an analysis. Manfred de Zimmerman did an analysis of the frequency of letter frequency occurring in a language. He examined Quenya and Sindarin and compared them to Finnish and Welsh. Like the percentage of each type of...
Right. Because supposedly they're very close.
Right, they're supposed to be, yeah. So, number 1 for Quenya, 17.5%. Sindarin, so it was A, or the A sound, I guess. E for Sindarin, A for Finnish, A for Welsh, and E for English. Anyway, that's a little too esoteric here, but so I'm looking for some actual words. It's a heavy analysis issue. as they were getting underway, they're going back and doing a lot of analysis on the previous issues.
So at this point, Hawk, do you think that Vineyard Tingwar, the early days, their main concern was just basically understanding Elvish syntax and grammar?
Well, multiple languages. It's not just Elvish, because as you saw,
all the languages have been learned.
Yeah.
Syntax, grammar, that kind of thing.
It is trying to turn it into, I think, a usable language was their goal, to try to gather all the pieces,
right,
make sense of it.
I thought everybody in Middle Earth spoke English. I mean, the movies tell you that.
Well, didn't you ever watch the movies in with Orcish subtitles?
No.
The Black Speech?
I didn't see the Black Speech version.
There was also a call on this issue from Carl F. Hostetter. Why is that name familiar? Wishes to get in touch with other ELF members who wish to participate in a project to develop a Tengwar and Kurth font for the Apple Mac computers.
Wow.
And he gives his mailing address, not his email, his postal mailing address. This is 1989, folks.
Last millennium.
Below that is Quenya Higher Oral Paper by Jenny Coombs. And this is, it's funny. So it's kind of like if you're learning a new language, like Russian or something, you start out like like in preschool, you really see Jack run, see Jack meet Jane, they play ball, whatever. Very, very basic phrases. So this one is pupil plays part of patient, and then the teacher plays the part of the doctor. Instructions: 1, greet the doctor. 2, say you don't feel well. 3, answer the question. 4, answer the question. 5, say you have a headache and a sore throat. 6, the doctor says you have an upset stomach, diagnosis a little doubtful. Ask what he will give you for it. But this is done in Quenya. I engwa ellen spla lumen almen tielvo. In the translation, a star shines on the hour of our meeting. So hello, doctor.
Yeah, that's a common greeting.
Yes. Nir istima arnai aryan tira tielia. And may Aryan be watching over your path.
Are you?
Aryan, yeah. Which one's Aryan?
That's what I'm thinking.
That must be an alien. I wonder if it's a typo. Yeah, I'll have to look up. Anybody know what Aryan, A-R-I-E-N, which deity is that Yavana's alias?
I've found, yeah, it's actually the sun.
Oh.
It's she. Aryan was chosen by the Valar to guide the vessel of the sun above the ears of Arda.
Okay.
So.
Laiwa Nanye, which is I am sick. So Laiwa Nanye, I am sick. L-A-I-W-A, N-A with an accent mark, N-Y-E. And then there's a footnote. I use the full forms of the personal inflections at the end of sentences because I feel it sounds pleasanter. Compare Greek, where the third particle present indicative action verb ending is, and then she gives the Greek characters, except preceding a vowel or at the end of a sentence where it becomes more Greek. Likewise, third singular aorist. So you can see this is getting pretty.
It just shows you, yeah. Grammar
police.
Yeah, they really.
Whole other level.
Yes.
And we are not at that level. But I do like the learning the Laiwa Nanya, I am sick.
And that's hard to broadcast also, I think. It's easier in some ways to
see it.
Elvish.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's our phrase of the day. I am sick, because that's the easiest one.
Okay, could you repeat that again?
Laiwa Nanye, L-A-I-W-A, it's the first word. And the second word is Nanye, N-A with an accent mark, N-Y-E, all one word. Laiwa Nanye.
All one word?
Yeah, Laiwa is one word.
Oh, right.
Nanya is another word.
Right. I am sick.
I am sick. That's at least manageable. Then there's Arasinya Livelin Utlie. Has this dawn brought sickness for you? So they're trying to find words that will fit to do the phrases. Response, Lawame, nan I arin yana ata ari anta nin kaela. No, but rather the previous morning, 2 days give me sickness. Man amatlelia, what have you eaten? It's only 2 words, but that second word is a mouthful, so to speak.
Okay.
Didn't get it.
Oh,
I was waiting for a little rim shot there.
Come on, drum beat for the
rim shot.
Come on,
Yeah,
Chris.
come on. Chris, get him.
Oh wow, long one. Ametian mast, ar uvie fenar, ar usutian limpeva, suto, sine ille, apsa ya amatian. I have eaten bread and beech nuts in very great number, and I have drunk a draught of limpe.
Limpe. Very, very good stuff.
Beech nuts? I know, but I couldn't think of anything else remotely edible. Was the footnote. Yolda Miruvoreva, a draft of Miravore, so... Miravore. Okay, well, it's... all right.
That's what Galadriel gives him.
Sutto Limpeva should draft of Limpe. And then the second to last one is Lala Melal Fenar, i.e. Elia Mol Milmeru. Surely you do not like beech nuts. Alas, you slave of greed. Oh, I want that. We've got to write that one down. AI is one word.
Yep.
Next word is Elia, E-L-Y-E. Next word is Mor, it's M-O with an accent mark, L. And then Milmeo, M-I-L-M-E-O. Milmeo. Alas, you slave of greed. Elia Mol Milmeo. That's great. And the last one, Calme nin nolan ar nualga lanconia. Which doesn't have a translation, except,
It's all sent
all right, next page. Oh, never mind, it goes on longer. Okay, I thought
Hey,
it was
guys.
shorter, never mind.
Chris and Deborah, are you able to? Is it light enough in the room for you to see? Pretty good.
Bye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
We show him pretty well.
Yeah.
I can see you nodding off very easily.
All right, so that was, my head is in agony and my throat torments me.
You slave of greed.
Yeah. This kind of gets back into the whole question of if you could translate something into Elvish, what would you translate? Bohemian Rhapsody.
There's gibberish words in there, though. How would you translate that?
Galileo's the same.
Mamma mia.
Scaramouche, do the Van Damme both on the boards of lightning. Very, very later. All right, let's see.
Galileo.
Laiwanar paseyan apsatula. You are sick in that place whither food goes. So, because they don't have a word for stomach, I guess. Well, they hadn't figured it out, though, right? Because this is all pre-history of the word.
Right.
Yes, but this is what we have
It
available.
might be flowers.
Man antuvalyan sinan. What will you give me for this?
In other words, medicine.
Yes. Antuvan tableti lankian aranyave. I shall give you tablets for swallowing early in the morning. I bet that's a modernization. I wonder if they actually
Take
have
two, call me in the
tablet. Yeah, basically. Lankuvan sine tableti ar enuval irukaimasea. I shall have swallowed these tablets, and shall I again be healthy? And the last one, Kul Martuv Lin, Ananta Ilya Malinar tulla fare. Life will remain to you, and yet natural death comes to all mortal folk.
But these are two elves, right?
That's a good one for the upcoming
Oh,
moot.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
I
love that for the moot.
That's an odd thing for an elf doctor to say to an elf patient.
Yes, it is.
He's a quack. He's an elvish quack.
Well, maybe it's a human to an elf doctor.
Oh, that could be it.
I didn't read the whole thing. But you are the student, and then the teacher's supposed to be the doctor responding is the lesson that you practice. But life will remain to you, and yet natural death comes to all mortal folk. That might be interesting to put in a little subtext for the upcoming moot, with the whole thing being the undead and stuff. All right, so I think we covered enough on that. Whew, that was a little heavier than we usually go. Probably lost everybody at that point.
Yeah, we're all in the halls of Mandos now. Thanks a lot.
Speaking of which, is Artemis shredded?
What's that?
Is Artemis shredded?
Yeah. No, this is not joining us this time.
I'm ready to sing Bilbo's last song.
Can I blow some water?
Please. You know where the cups are? Left the sink. The finicization of Quenya. So in Art of Philology 1, Proceedings of the First International Conference on J.R. Tolkien's Invented Languages, home in Tielva Minja, Stockholm, 2005. I'm sorry, Chris, were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, okay.
Wow, did you get a new microwave?
Yes.
Wow.
Got it all swapped out. Remember the other one the kids had put metal cups in and ruined it.
Yeah, that's usually bad for its health.
Yeah. So the Petri Tika on the Finicization, as in Finnish, Finicization of Quenya. What?
This microwave's smarter than I am. I feel
Okay, did you just turn on the fan?
yes.
Okay.
I'm making a policy not to use appliances that are smarter than
What's that, Chris?
The Oxford Quenian Dictionary will never be finished.
Oh! Okay, where's that rim shot?
No.
Chris said the Oxford. Go ahead, say it again, Chris.
The Oxford Quenya Dictionary will never be finished.
Oh. Yes, indeed. Nice one.
So the discovery of a Finnish grammar had a profound impact on Tolkien. He said, quote, "It quite intoxicated me, and I gave up the attempt to invent an unrecorded Germanic language and my own language, or series of invented languages, became heavily Finnicized in phonetic pattern and structure," end quote. That's letters 163. Thus was created Quenya, the elf Latin of the High Elves. Quenya, this is without the U, Q-E-N-Y-A, was the name of Tolkien's Finnish-inspired Elvish language from its conception until it was changed to Quenya, with the U, by the end of the 30s. The change seems to be only orthographical, but there is also a slight change in the pronunciation from Q marking a double consonant to QU marking a single consonant.
What's orthographic?
Written as it's written.
Neither does Finnish allow double consonants word initially, so this can be seen as an example of continued Finnicization beside the original inspiration. A lot has been said on the relationship between Finnish and Quenya, both in studies dedicated to the subject and in scattered utterances and theories. None of them have denied the existing influence of the Finnish language on the High Elven language. Both some empirical data and Tolkien's own words make it too firm a fact. But some have belittled its importance, mostly because they've only noticed the manifold differences between them in vocabulary, accent, phonotactics, etc. Most importantly, there has been some doubt cast on the continuing influence of Finnish in Quenya. Hari Parala says in his article, Are High Elves Finno-Ugric, quote, "Finnish influence does indeed seem strong in the earliest form of the language, at least in vocabulary, where many words are Finnish in style. Later on, the language distanced a little farther from Finnish, but the similarity never disappeared, end quote. This claim that Quenya became less Finnicized throughout the years I set out to disprove. It seems to me based on a shallow understanding of linguistic influence. True enough, Tolkien did cease to take as many words from Finnish into Quenya as he did earlier. But this is only superficial borrowing. In the most important areas, the relationship got deeper. Quenya continued to be, quote, heavily Finnicized in phonetic pattern and structure, end quote. The influence on Quenya is not so large as to be distracting. Quenya is its own language for sure. But its parallels to many different languages are enough to ignite your imagination and intellect. Tolkien didn't usually borrow directly. Rather, he was soil in which a garden rose from old linguistic seeds. The different sources that Tolkien drew from to forge Quenya created an atmosphere of both uniqueness and depth in it. This, might I say, wonder can be experienced through both a shallow plunge into the language and an intensive year-to-year study. In this paper, I intend to examine fairly comprehensively the Finnicization of Quenya in all its aspects, showing concrete examples of both its existence and its intensification. While I propose similarities between Quenya and Finnish in the study, I do not claim that all of them should be direct, intentional loans from Finnish. Some of them may be, or may most probably are, just coincidences. Behind some of them may lie general linguistic patterns that Tolkien had noticed. Some of them may be loans from other languages. Some of them may just be interesting parallels without any specific line of influence. Nevertheless, I do believe that all of the similarities should be noted in order to even begin assessing the true extent of the Finnish influence on Quenya. And so then he goes on at length, breaking down word after word, and this is a very long piece. So this is again from Art of Philology 1, Stockholm 2005. Another valuable resource for those interested in the linguistics Tolkien. Okay, we got it in our language.
Can I just say,
yes?
Isn't it weird that we say loan words, but you never give them back?
Yes. George Carlin.
Well, what about the other quote? English is a language that goes through other languages, pockets for loose adverbs.
Oh, nice.
Heard another yesterday on Star Talk with Tyson.
Yeah.
Not the boxer, the cosmologist.
Yes.
Mentee of Carl Sagan. He wrapped up with, isn't it interesting, because he was talking about how studying all this is both art and science. He says, isn't it interesting how it comes down to science, but we raise, oh darn it, now I blew it. Raised it to an art, and it comes down to science. He was just noting the interesting high and low of those approaches and the importance of both.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, raised it to an art, and it comes down to science.
Yeah, how we use words.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so are we? Shall we read a letter? We're on 121.
121.
Richard, do you want to? If you would like to jump in here, you're welcome to it.
Can I have the hard copy?
Yep, I'm just pulling up the page for you.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Okay, right there, nice short one.
Oh, gee, you got me reading such a long one. From a letter to Alwyn and Unwin, 13th July, 1949, on the subject of a sequel to Farmer Giles of Ham.
I'm sorry, that just sounds really funny.
A sequel
to the Farmer Giles and Ham. Because it was a humorous book.
Yes.
I could just imagine. Carry on,
Yes.
please, Richard.
Are you finished? You know, I don't want to interrupt.
I was not
No,
laughing at
he's
your
pointed.
expense. I was laughing at my expense.
I know, I'm pulling your leg.
Oh, wait, what did you just say?
He asked if you were finished, and I said, no, he's Quenya.
Oh.
Well, at least he's not black-speeched. As for further legends of the Little Kingdom, I put a reference to one in the foreword in case they should ever come to anything, or a manuscript of the fragmentary legend should come to light. But Gregorius, Jorius?
I don't know, I'm visual.
It's the Latinized George.
Georgius.
Georgius. And Suet remains only a sketch, and it is difficult now to recapture the spirit of the former days when we used to beat the bounds of the LK in an ancient car. I'm thinking of Tolkien driving, so
Yes.
it might have been literally talking about beating the edges.
Yeah,
of
beating the
car.
bounds. More like crashing into the bounds.
The children now range from 20 to 32. But when I have at last got The Lord of the Rings, of which I have nearly completed a final fair copy, the released screen may do something. This was still what, in the middle of him writing it? It wasn't even close to finish?
Well, there's the whole thing about when was it published, you know, that whole deal where he insisted to his publishers that he wanted to include the Silmarillion, and they were not having it. So, yeah, I think he tweaked all the way. He kept changing it. Final fair copy of LOTR. Okay, what else does it say? Is that it?
That's the end of the letter.
Okay, so this letter mentions his children,
From 20 to 32.
ages 20 to 32. This might be a good time for us just to review the names of his children. Priscilla, Christopher, Michael. Can I remember the other one? Hawk?
I don't think Hawk was one.
Speaking of puns, my favorite letter, I think
Who was
Tolkien's
the-
favorite letter was T.
I don't remember off the top of my head, and I'd have to pull that up on Wikipedia or
I
something.
think it was Bob. Wasn't Bob one of them? Sorry, I couldn't remember. Pretty sure it was Billy Bob.
That one just hanging there in the
Okay,
air.
the oldest son is no, Michael's older than Christopher. Well,
Wasn't Christopher like the middle one?
Cooperstein, you've got nothing else to do. Look it up for us, will you? There's a good chap. Anyway, so his kids are ages 20 to 32. So it's kind of an empty nest, it sounds like, he and Edith. And he's working on, what was the quote? I didn't hear the quote about a sequel for, that was at the very beginning where he was talking about a sequel for
Legends of the Little Kingdom.
And that's what he called it?
Yeah. The note on top is a sequel in brackets, a sequel to Farmer Giles at Ham.
But did he say that he actually wrote some of it or not? Or was just thinking about it?
I put a reference to one in the foreword in case they should ever come to anything. Or a manuscript of the fragmentary legend should come to light. So he's kind of thinking of a way to work a sequel into the lore, I think, is what he's talking about.
Okay, so we're really talking just as a potential, not
Yeah.
as an actual. Because I don't think I've ever actually come across a copy of something that was
I
finished.
think he's proposing Legends of the Little Kingdom as a
Yeah.
category.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because here, Farmer Giles did very well, so he's thinking about a sequel, just like The Hobbit did well, and so he began a sequel.
Right, but
Well, of a
the
lighter
Lord of the
sort.
Rings kind of mushroomed in. And can you imagine Farmer Giles of Ham mushrooming to the same kind of?
Well, right, because he just tended to do that. Although I think with Farmer Giles, it was very much so a light or comic thing. So this idea as a fragment makes a lot of sense, that the Little Kingdom is what Farmer Giles became king of, right? That was his kingdom was called the Little Kingdom. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it, if he had time to put together various little legends.
He was still adding material to the Silmarillion when he died, I think.
Niggling forever.
Oh, yes.
Jonathan.
Jonathan, okay.
Okay, and which one was the oldest? What's the birth order?
Jonathan, Michael, Christopher, and Priscilla. So, like myself, Christopher was the ultimate middle child.
I have not had that burden. I'm the youngest.
I'm the eldest.
I am the youngest.
Which makes a Ray.
I want to break out into John Denver's song. I am the eagle.
The eagle.
When you say ultimate middle child, are you referring to the fact that when there are two middle children, that the second one is even in less of an important place?
Or in my case, Ellen was the only daughter, was the third, and so I was second, and therefore I got it from all three sides.
I see. You were the middle child, but you also weren't. She was also the daughter, so.
And the only daughter, and so she was special, and I was not.
Even more unspecial.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I always thought it was fascinating.
I'm the only one that has maintained my faith, and the other three have not.
Well, in my experience with having children, it seems that the one who, at least at the beginning, occupies that kind of middle spot as the second born, usually ends up having more skills of flexibility and adapting to life. That doesn't mean that others can't, but they learn from an early age how to live underneath adversity.
Yes, this much is true.
I'll just bite my tongue.
This is
I have a
the
younger brother and sister
this is the part of the
who would
episode.
wholeheartedly agree with both of you.
This is the part of the episode called Feeding the Bear. Or is it Feeding Bjorn?
Sure it's not baiting the bird?
I think Bjorn's in the fridge right now, to be honest with you.
Oh, his name is Hawk. So.
Yes. Well, now we must avoid casting aspersions on
No respect. No respect.
Elvis people. I think, Deborah, are you still there?
No, she dropped off. I think her connection's over.
Yeah,
always
seems like it never lasts very long.
It's her cell phone.
Yeah, okay, well, that's sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But
We appreciate while she's here.
as
She does check out the recordings later.
not to go off on a totally different tangent, but Tolkien as father of young children, and then Tolkien as father of children who are leaving the home kind of during the war years where Christopher is off, and he's concerned, his son is, now a young man. And then now all of his children are out of the home, although I don't know if Priscilla was at that point, but probably in college or doing something else. And it's certainly a different era of time. So I wonder how that, affected his writing when you think about it. When you don't have kids in the home, you have, quote, more free time, but in some ways they also serve as an impetus or a momentum. So like The Hobbit, of course, being written initially as part of bedtime stories.
Yes, it seems like he wrote a lot with his children around, letters to Father Christmas and referendum and such, where it took him a little while when he was older to write serious.
Actually, the next letter is concerning Farmer Giles of Ham again.
Well, maybe we should go on with that. Shall I read?
Indeed. Do you want a hard copy?
Yeah, why not? Unless, well, you can read one. I've got it here.
Oh, just juggle it.
I have a soft
Cell
copy.
phone, tea, book,
Why not?
notepad. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. Right, okay. Hawk, we'll go ahead and read it if you don't object.
Please do. I did more than my share.
Wrote letter 122 to Naomi Mitchison. Footnote, Mrs. Mitchison had written in praise of Farmer Giles of Ham, which was published in the autumn of 1949. 18th of December, 1949, 3 Manor Road, Oxford. Dear Mrs. Mitchison, it was extremely kind of you to write to me. As for Farmer Giles, it was, I fear, written very lightheartedly, originally of a no time in which blunderbusses or anything might occur. It's slightly Domish touching up, as read to the Lovelace Society, and as published, makes the blunderbuss rather glaring, though not really worse than all medieval treatments of Arthurian matter. But it was too embedded to be changed, and some people find the anachronisms amusing. I myself could not forgo the quotation, so very Murray-esque, from the Oxford Dictionary. Greek fire must have been more like a flammenwerfer. As used on their ships, it seems to have been quite deadly. But in the Isle of Britain, in archaeological fact, there can have been nothing in the least like a firearm. But neither was their 14th century armor. I find dragons a fascinating product of imagination, but I don't think the Beowulf one is frightfully good. But the whole problem of the intrusion of the dragon into northern imagination and its transformation there is one I do not know enough about. Fafnir in the late Norse versions of the Sigurd story is better, and Smaug and his conversation obviously is in debt there. I know Icelandic pretty well, as I should, and a little Welsh, but in spite of efforts, I have always been rather heavily defeated by Old Irish, or indeed its modern descendants. The mix-up was politically and culturally great and complex, but it left very little linguistic trace on Icelandic, save in the borrowing of certain names, notably Brian and Nae, which became used in Iceland. On Irish, the influence was more considerable. But in any case, names that were at all similar in sound tended to be equated or confused. I hope to give you soon 2 books about which at least one criticism will be possible, that they are excessively long. One is a sequel to The Hobbit, which I've just finished after 12 years of intermittent labor. I fear it is 3 times as long, not for children, though that does not mean wholly unsuitable, and rather grim in places. I think it is very much better in a different way. The other is pure myth and legend of times already remote in Bilbo's days. Thank you again for writing. I hope the reply is in places legible. With best wishes, yours sincerely, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Interesting. He's talking about Lord of the Rings as a single volume, and the other
No, that
one is
was
clearly a reference to Silmarillion.
Silmarillion, yeah.
Well, that's a good point, Richard, because I think
Hot Richard, we're a composite entity.
yeah, you're all one being. No, I meant that the Tolkien did indeed see it as either to be read as one book. It was divided into 6 pieces or parts or books, and you still find it in the published, But his publisher wanted to combine each of those 2 into 3 volumes, right?
Oh, it eventually got chopped up.
Well, that's the publisher's desire, not his.
Right.
So I think it would have made sense to either publish it as 1 volume, which you can get now, or as 6 separate ones, which I don't think Tolkien wanted either. Hawk, what's your knowledge on that? Was he intending to have it written as 1 large volume that could be read all at once?
He was referring to it as a single volume, was my understanding. He broke it into 6 books, 7 books.
More for organizational purposes.
Right, but for my understanding, unless I'm mistaken, was that it was a single book. That was
Well, you can see that in the way that you're in the middle of the you're in the middle volume and it says book 2. You come to a heading that says book 2 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
It's kind of an artifact left over.
Well, and I think that was under his insistence. He's like, if you're going to break it into 3 books, okay, fine, but don't destroy the organization. The whole story is really in 6 different movements. I think what's fascinating about this that you brought up is the fact that, think about how when the publisher said, really, we need it to be in bite-sized, pieces, or at least, books that are easier for people to digest instead of this massive tome.
Dare I say sound bites?
Sorry, Chris?
Sound bites.
What about them?
Well, that's what the media always wants. Publishers always want is sound bites.
That they want, yes, the easy pieces to digest and all that. And I think then it shows that it was directly the fault of the publisher and not the author, that all these poor readers, after reading the end of the Two Towers, in which it says, Frodo was alive but taken by the enemy, and so everybody's like, no, because they had to wait like 2 more years or 3 more years until the next book was published.
And that was the reaction of some of my friends as we were watching the first Lord of the Rings movie in Japan. Was that exact same concept? That you mean that's not the whole movie? We're gonna have to wait.
I remember 2 guys walking out of me, and one of them turned to the front. This was at the end of Two Towers, Peter Jackson's work, and they turned and commented to each other. And so, boy, that was long. But is that the end? Well, they expressed some real confusion on where the story was going.
Well, I suppose that's the thing. It's really interesting to look at the Lord of the Rings as a work in that it's published in real time, and then so you have it in 3 pieces, which are separated. Nowadays, you still do that, but when it comes to movies, I find it fascinating that you've got this phenomenon where, okay, so on the one hand you have, say, Star Wars. And like in the old days, you have a story is put forward in pieces, and you have to wait for the next part. So episode 7 has been released,
So
and
it's
episode 8
being serialized.
it's serialized, but it's only available after a period of time and waiting, right? And the only time that you'll be able to actually quote watch it all at once is when all the movies have come out. You can have them, and you can do this. Now Netflix. They tend to have a whole season, and then they once the whole season has been generated or filmed, then they release the whole thing, and this allows for binge watching.
Yeah.
And or to be able to see the whole
catering to it.
Well, they are, right. But I think what Chris was mentioning in Japan is very fascinating.
Binge watching not an old concept either, or it's not a new concept, because binge watching has been around since Der Ring des Nibelungen was released.
And look, in his hands he bears.
Exactly. But
Yep.
Chris, you were trying.
when you went to the Seattle Opera, you would actually go watch it over about
Weeks, a week, 10 days.
about a 2-week period where you would watch 4 shows, and that's how it would work. And it was very compelling as a binge watch.
San Francisco still does it.
Wow.
I remember we had a member of the Tolkien Society on the show a few times.
Sure.
From California.
Any other comments on letter 122?
Nope. So we don't have Jeremiah and the others
I know.
today.
So it's fun.
Let's see. Rude. I'll just show you this. I stumbled across this little blast from the past. That's me as Scrooge.
Oh, very nice. Yes.
You should show that for the
Excellent. Yeah. Does anybody know what a Flammenwerfer is?
Oh,
there you go.
He says Greek fire must have been more like a Flammenwerfer.
That would be, if you were using a German pronunciation, the W is
Right there is me as Scrooge.
Flammenwerfer.
I was a little more well-fed than Scrooge, but you know, if what's his name, George C. Scott could do Scrooge. Well, okay. I'm not comparing myself to George C. Scott, but you know, he was really well-fed. So. Yeah.
Okay. So a Flammenwerfer is a flamethrower.
Oh, cool. Brennan would have known that.
Literally flamethrower, the standard German flamethrower beginning in 1941.
I kind of knew that, just I thought everybody did, so I didn't come in.
Anyway, it was random. It was something I randomly came across when I was cleaning up.
Oh, I know it. I know why he's saying that. Because the picture of the blunderbuss being fired has this flame coming out.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that's why he's talking about a German flamethrower.
Okay.
Is that Deborah?
I think
No.
that's one of Chris's little kids.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Now, what's
you
the
want-
next? Yeah, let's do the next one.
Hawk, your turn. Letter 123. 123. Hey, this is very momentous. We were actually to letter
123.
123.
There's a lot of context and
Okay.
contextual information that's necessary.
Number 123, from a draft to Milton Waldman. So this is a draft of a letter, as many of these are. 5th of February,
I'm feeling cold already.
1950.
Get it, a draft.
Dun-dun-dun.
You just leave me cold.
At about the time that he was finishing The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien was introduced to Milton Waldman, an editor with the London publisher Collins. Waldman expressed great interest in the new book and also in the Silmarillion, which Tolkien hoped would be published in conjunction with The Lord of the Rings. As Allen and Unwin had not accepted the Silmarillion when Tolkien offered it to them in 1937, so 13 years later, he now believed that he should try to change his publisher. Accordingly, he showed Waldman those parts of the Silmarillion of which there were fair copies. Waldman said he would like to publish it if Tolkien would finish it. Tolkien then showed him The Lord of the Rings. Waldman was again enthusiastic and offered to publish it providing Tolkien had, quote, no commitment either moral or legal to Allen and Unwin, end quote. The reply that Tolkien sent cannot be traced, but what follows is part of a draft for it. Because he could have gotten a lot of trouble over this one.
Probably why we can't locate it. Right?
Yeah.
It was destroyed.
I am sorry that the days have slipped by since I got your note. As soon as I had dumped the MS of The Lord of the Rings on you, manuscript Lord of the Rings on you, I felt bad about it, weighing down your holiday with a labor that only an author's egotism could have inflicted at such a time. And examining my conscience, I had to confess that, as one who has worked alone in a corner and only had the criticism of a few like-minded friends, I was moved greatly by the desire to hear from a fresh mind whether my labor had any wider value or was just a fruitless private hobby. All the same, I don't think that, in fact, I burdened you under false pretenses. I believe myself to have no legal obligation to Allen and Unwin, since the clause in the Hobbit contract with regard to offering the next book seems to have been satisfied either A, by their rejection of the Silmarillion, or B, by their eventual acceptance and publication of Farmer Giles. I should, as you note, be glad to leave them, as I have found them in various ways unsatisfactory. But I have friendly personal relations with Stanley, whom all the same I do not much like.
Ouch.
And with his second son, Rayner, whom I do like very much.
Yeah.
It has always been supposed that I am writing a sequel to The Hobbit. Rayner has read most of The Lord of the Rings and likes it. As a small boy, he read the manuscript of The Hobbit. Sir Stanley has long been aware that The Lord of the Rings has outgrown its function, and is not pleased since he sees no money in it for anyone, so he said. But he is anxious to see the final result all the same. If this constitutes a moral obligation, then I have one, at least to explain the situation. Did I say something of all this in my letter of December 13th? I certainly meant to. However, I certainly shall try to extricate myself, or at least the Silmarillion and all its kin, from the dilatory coils of Allen and Unwin, if I can, in a friendly fashion, if possible.
Who did end up publishing the Silmarillion? Was it different from the ones who published it?
1977.
Mifflin?
It was published posthumously.
But Christopher
Not
Tolkien
by Allen
negotiated
Unwin.
that, yeah. Houghton Mifflin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
I'll look that up.
So it wasn't Unwin. That here in America, we don't see anything published by Unwin.
No, it's not directly, no.
And then, well, that's
Licensing and.
sure. And remember I think he referenced the fact that when The Hobbit was published over here, it was through what was the first official, the authorized.
Yes.
That was really broken up, Chris.
Yeah, you're breaking me up.
We're just gonna have to end this relationship, I guess.
So copyright 37, George Allen and Unwin. Copyright 66 by Tolkien. Renewed 94 by Christopher. I think Houghton Mifflin is actually the American.
Oh, the
Is it?
Silmarillion, first edition, Allen and Unwin,
Oh, okay.
1977.
All right.
So they finally accepted it.
After he was dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know
Talk about moral obligations there.
Yeah. So any other comment on that letter?
That was very interesting to note that he didn't care for the father, he cared for the son, but not,
Yeah.
Yeah, but also look at it. He wrote The Hobbit for his
Younger.
son when he was a child,
Mhm.
and the guy who likes it, he likes the response from the most, is another kid who grew up reading it.
Mhm.
Well, and Rayner ended up taking the reins of the job.
Right.
So
Oh, I wonder if it was the son who published the Silmarillion.
I'm looking that up right now. Same thought I had.
That's a good point.
If Stanley died, when did Stanley die?
Yeah, that's a good question. Huh.
Or we could have Chris do it because he's on the internet.
Oh, Stanley didn't die until 2002.
Oh, wow.
So when did Rayner take the reins?
When did Stanley retire?
Probably not before, not until after. So he must have finally grudgingly accepted that they should publish the Silmarillion.
Interesting.
But by the mid 70s, Tolkien was becoming hot stuff
Yes.
in terms of reading materials.
Oh, you're missing a couple details. Where was Stanley Unwin born?
Wait. He was born in Daventry, United Kingdom.
Incorrect,
No?
according to this.
Oops.
Yeah.
I'm reading the wrong. This is a comedian. Whoops.
Check your sources, Brian.
Okay, so what about the Stanley Unwin who was the publisher? When did he die? Oh, 1968.
And where and when born?
Oh. Okay, so Stanley Unwin publisher died in London in 1968.
And Silmarillion was published in 77, wasn't it?
This is the Chicago Tribune article.
Right. Where was he born? Where were they born?
So go ahead and tell me, Chris.
Sir Stanley Unwin. When's that? All right.
You asked a question without knowing the
I
answer.
missed it here.
We're on tenterhooks
Wait.
now.
What?
I'll find it.
Okay.
Sorry.
The dragon is in the details.
Oh, the next letter is really long.
This is really fascinating because this article.
But his next one is to Sir Stanley Unwin.
Is
Letter
it?
124. Yeah. February 24th, just 3 weeks later. About the publishing. It's his negotiations.
We want to finish up with that one.
Do you know?
I think since we're on the topic,
Do you know what it says? The Chicago Tribune in his obituary, it says about Stanley Unwin in 1968, never the most popular figure among fellow publishers. That tells you something.
yes.
He probably was a little difficult
Do
to
you want
work
me to
with.
finish up?
Or Chris could. Chris hasn't read yet.
Chris, you have yours? You want to read letter 124?
Yes.
Yeah, but he's coming in half there.
No, as long as he continues talking, it'll probably be okay.
Okay.
Chris, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
It's the back and forth.
Can I hear me now?
Read away, sir.
24 February 1950. Merton College, Oxford. Dear Unwin, I am, I fear, a most unsatisfactory person. I am at present on leave and away off on. I don't know if you're hearing me or not.
Yep, we hear you.
Though the effort to cope with mass literary and learned debts that my leave was supposed to assist and proved too much for me. Especially I have been troubled with my throat and have felt often far from well. But anyway, I should long ago answered your query handled on from Mr. Selby. Though dated January 31st, was in fact addressed to me December 31st. I cannot imagine and had not discovered what Mr. Selby was referring to. I have, of course, not written an authentic history of fairy, and should not in any case have chosen such a title, nor have I caused any prophecy or rumor or any such work to be circulated. I must suppose that Mr. Selby associates me with fairy and has attached my name to someone else's work. It seems hardly likely that he can have come across some literary chat of which, in any case, I am ignorant, in which somebody has referred to my Silmarillion, long ago rejected and shelved. This title is not particularly fitting, and the work has been read in manuscript only about 5 persons, counting 2 of my children and your reader. That, however, brings me to a more important topic, to me at any rate. In one of your more recent letters, you expressed a desire to see the manuscript of my proposed work, The Lord of the Rings, originally accepted to be a sequel to The Hobbit. For 18 months now, I have been hoping for the day when I could call it finished, forever niggling. But it was not until after Christmas that this goal was reached at last. Aha! He thinks he's done it. It is finished, if still partly unrevised, and I suppose a condition which a reader could read if he did not wilt at the sight of it. At the estimate for typing a fair copy, it would be in the neighborhood of £100, for which I have not to spare. I was obliged to do nearly all myself. Imagine typing all of that.
Oh my goodness.
Yep, computer.
With a typewriter. That's just amazing. And now I look at it, the magnitude of this disaster is apparent to me. My work has escaped from my control, and I have produced a monster, an immensely long, complex, rather bitter, very terrifying romance, quite unfit for children, if fit for anybody, and it is not really a sequel to The Hobbit, but to the Silmarillion. My estimate is that it contains, even without certain necessary adjuncts, about 600,000 words. One typist put it higher. I can see only too clearly how impracticable it is. By a higher, it is off my chest, and I do not feel that I can do anything more about it beyond a little revision of inaccuracies. Worse still, I feel it is tied to the Silmarillion. You, perhaps, remember that about that one, a long legendary of imaginary times in high style, full of elves of a sort. It was rejected on the advice of your reader many years ago. As far as my memory goes, he allowed it to a kind of Celtic beauty intolerable to Anglo-Saxons in large doses. He was probably perfectly right and just. As you commented, it was a work to be drawn upon rather than be published. Unfortunately, I am not an Anglo-Saxon, and though shelved until a year ago, the Silmarillion and all that has refused to be suppressed. It has bubbled up, infiltrated, and probably spoiled everything, and even remotely approached fairy, which I have tried to write space. It was kept out of Farmer Giles with an effort, but stopped continuation. Its shadow was deep on the later pages of Hobbit. It has been compared with the Lord of the Rings, so that has become simply the continuation and completion, requiring the Silmarillion to be fully intelligible without a lot of references and explanations that clutter in one or two. Ridiculous as you may think me, I want to publish them both, the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings, in conjunction or connection. I want to. It would be wiser to say I should like to, since a package of, say, 1,000,000 words, a matter set out in extenso that the Anglo-Saxons or the English-speaking public can only endure in moderation, is very likely to see the light even if paper were available at will. All the same, that is what I should like, or I will let it be. I cannot contemplate any drastic rewriting or compression. Of course, being a writer, I should like my words printed, but there they are. For me, the chief thing is that I feel that the whole matter is now exercised and rides me no more. I turn now to other things, such as perhaps the little kingdom of the worming, footnote, or to quite other matters and stories. I am sorry this letter is so long and so full of myself. I am not only filled with overweening conceit of my absurd private hobbies, but you have been very patient, expecting during the long years equal to the Hobbit to fit a similar body, though I know you are aware that I am going off the rails. I owe you some kind of explanation. You will let me know what you think. You can have all this mountain of stuff if you wish. It will take a reader who really reads a long time, I fear, and so he may make up his mind with a sample. But I shall have any just grievance, nor I shall not have any just grievance, nor shall I be dreadfully surprised if you decline so obviously unprofitable proposition, and ask me to hurry up and submit some more reasonable book as I can. Yours sincerely, J.R.R. Tolkien. P.S. Rayner, poor man, has read a large part of The Lord of the Rings, though not to the bitter end. I only finished the last book quite recently. I hope he is prospering. How is little Farmer Giles doing, I wonder? J.R.R.T.
Very interesting. You know, to me, what it seems like is that in this long letter to his publisher, he's kind of, based on the last letter we read, I almost wonder if he's thinking, okay, I have a moral obligation to explain, and I think I probably owe them another book. And I'm going to make a pitch here and say, look, can you just let me know once and for all whether or not you want to do this? Because if it's going to be the Lord of the Rings, it needs to go with the Silmarillion. Or if not, then maybe you want me to write something else. And that way, he's giving them a chance again, and they can say, oh, yes, actually, why don't you just produce something else for us? That then gets him out of the obligation. He can then turn to this Milton Waldman guy, have him publish the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion as Tolkien wished, and then come up with something else for Alan Unwin. Or if Alan Unwin says, okay, you're done with it now, let's go ahead and move forward with the Lord of the Rings, which is what apparently seems to have happened.
Well, actually, I was focusing on.
Yeah, eventually they talked him out of leaving out the Silmarillion but doing the appendices.
The footnotes or appendices.
The thing that I was focusing on was how he was talking about how he was trying to write the sequel for The Hobbit, and then he wrote this. He basically scribbled some background notes, and then it took over the Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, he rewrote 3 times.
Like this material out of the Silmarillion kind of consumed his project.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
It went in a direction he wasn't intending it to go.
Right. Yeah. The muses had him. Well, cool. Anything else before we wrap up?
One last comment.
Please.
It's interesting. He says he does not identify as an Anglo-Saxon. And I'm wondering if by that he meant the fact that his name was a German name, but neither he nor his father were born in Germany. You know, I think it goes back to his grandfather or great-grandfather, something like that. So
South Africa.
Well, okay, but only because he was born in South Africa. I think his mother and his father both were British with some German ancestry on his father's side.
Right. He went to Bloemfontein to be a bank manager. It was a job opportunity.
Exactly.
His father did.
And then his father died.
And then they got sent back to England in the hopes that he'd come back at some point, and said he died before he ever came back.
Right. Right. So the question is, what does that mean? I am not an Anglo-Saxon.
Well, Anglo-Saxon was originally a German tribe in the Jutland area.
Well, right. But he's referring to modern day English people.
Well, that invaded England.
Yes.
And then that's.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of 2 cultures.
I get that. I get the historical background, Richard. I'm talking about in the letter, he's talking about somebody saying that the Lord of the Rings is too Celtic. It's too much of that romantic stuff for Anglo-Saxons.
I think what he was getting at was that Anglo-Saxon was kind of perceived as a dominant culture, but he was more identifying with the Celtic culture.
Oh, okay.
I think is what I was trying to get at.
Well, the next letter, 125, continues their negotiations about the Silmarillion and the Lord of the Rings.
Well, this is fascinating stuff
It is.
because it's like, how did things transpire? How did they actually occur?
Yeah, we'll have to resume that in August because July will be focusing on the whole Tolkien's Undead thing.
Actually, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to resume this discussion in August. And it'll be letter 125.
Correct. Because next month will be all about Tolkien's Undead.
So would you say that there's a rich German mythology, whereas maybe not so much of a Celtic mythology anymore?
So maybe that's why he was identifying it not as.
Because one of his goals was to establish a English mythology to give the culture
his crest has long since fallen.
Foundation.
But that was one of his goals.
Yes, but his crest has long since fallen.
As Tolkien himself said, right?
Right. Yes, that's what it was for.
That could be a plausible explanation for why he said, "I am not Anglo-Saxon," meaning I do not identify with maybe he's looking more at, I do identify with the mythological background of German or even a Scandinavian, I would think, with the Icelandic background, his languages that he knew. It's just an odd comment, to be honest with you, because even though he's part German, he is most certainly not Scottish or Irish or Welsh in his ancestry.
Yeah.
As far as I know, well, there might be some Welsh way back, but I mean, in some ways, Lewis had more of a claim to that because he was from Northern Ireland, and so his family included both English and Irish people. But I think you're onto something. I think it probably has to do something with the mythology and what he doesn't see himself as a Anglo-Saxon as people understood that to mean in the 20th century.
I think he's more thinking of the linguistic cultural background package that wouldn't necessarily occur to the guy on the street. The guy on the street, I'm not Anglo-Saxon, I'm English.
Yeah. I think, well, as Americans, it's kind of puzzling to us because, we don't have those kinds of quandaries because the paradigm American is one that includes anybody. And so whereas English is not just a language, it is also an ethnicity. So that's why the distinction between British and English, right? So British refers to a nationality. I belong to the United Kingdom, therefore I'm British.
Deborah says she was running out of data minutes. That's why she had to disengage. So.
Australian English is criminals' language.
Boy!
And the Queen's English.
What, Chris?
And the Queen's English. It's not the people. It's the Queen's English.
I was asked by a friend of mine or an acquaintance who was an elderly British woman if the reason why Americans were less intelligent was because the early weren't the early colonists all convicts sent to a penal colony. And I had to break the news to her that only Georgia was a penal colony, and that was only for the very beginning. And actually quite a few Americans were pretty smart, but
she was disappointed.
Well, yeah, we didn't invent ethnocentricity, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that goes back a few thousands of years, thousands and thousands.
Any comments online? Pretty dead out there?
Yeah, again, summertime, folks, I'm just seeing even chat rooms in general are just dead, period.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
People are going to want to get out and, get unplugged and go enjoy the daylight, understandably. So,
well,
when they come back in the evening, when the sun sets, we have the recorded versions. And
it'll
do go back and watch these.
Do you see how many people?
Yeah, it's not a lot, but a few. We have followers and people that watch the videos after and comment after. So,
Richard, what are you saying?
It'll do well in the archives.
There you go. So I suggest that, and I'm sure you do this already, Hawk, but just that thered be a lot of maybe the word would be promoted that when the next Tolkien Society thing is going to be on, so people, if they want to.
Yep. So our usual things of TolkienScholars.org, and we're normally the second Saturday of each month from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time. We're on youtube.com/Tolkien Scholars. We're on twitter.com/Tolkien Scholars. We don't really do much on Facebook. We've pretty much abandoned Facebook. Also on Google Plus under TolkienScholars@gmail.com. And Chris has played with the Google effects spaces. So normally we meet the second Saturday of each month. However, in July, it is Tolkien Moot, which is the annual convention. It's a combination of Tolkien scholarly and gaming and fandom all combined. Normally it's a 3-day event. This year it's going to be 1 day, Saturday, July 16th. So that's the third Saturday. We will be doing Tolkien Society there. We always, whenever the month is a Tolkien Moot month, we move our society to coincide with the Moot. So our next Tolkien Society meeting will be July 16th, 1 p.m. Pacific time. The theme for the moot is Tolkien's Undead. That includes all the aspects, which also gets into topics of life after life and all the meta stuff that Tolkien addresses in Middle-earth context. So all that, we will have a special guest, Michael Martinez, joining us, author of Visualizing Middle-earth, Understanding Middle-earth, Parma-Andorian, and Mindfaring Through Middle-earth. All those you can find through Amazon.com, and Parma-Andorian is a free PDF. And so that'll be July 16th, and in August we will resume our normal and continue with letter 125 on the second Saturday of August if all goes according to plan. But again, you can get all the updates on tolkienscholars.org or on twitter.com/TolkienScholars. Thank you, Chris, for joining us remotely. Thank you, everybody who joined us online. And sorry we missed some of the folks. Hope you're having a wonderful summer. Thank you, Richard and Brian, for making it here. Really appreciate it. And wherever you may be well. Namaste.